Hey, what's up, guys? I'm Wilson Scr1be's, and this is another edition of Scribbles. This episode will be actually addressing the press conference that Nate Nanzer, who's the global director of Overwatch in terms of esports, for Overwatch World League, had a recent press conference in Korea regarding kind of like just answering basic questions. And I think it's actually important to address this because this is actually one of the more formed. This is actually the most recent formal announcement of anything Overwatch related. So, as an insider or as someone who's more familiar with the industry, none of this is actually a surprise to me. Actually, in fact, a lot of this I've heard before. However, I do want to reiterate how important it is that this information actually has been confirmed, because confirmation basically means that yes, that's exactly the direction they're going to. Whereas, let's say something that they tell me or someone, an owner tells me, while yes, sure, it's a trusted source or something like that, at the end of the day, it's not exactly confirmed. It's not. I wouldn't say. I would not exactly say that it's something that I would put a lot of faith in to definitely come true. But if Nate comes out and says this, it's definitely true. So I want to address what this is, and then also talk about what we can infer about this for the future. So first of all, thank you for Bartlett for us for doing this transcript. Obviously, I'm not in Korea. I'm in Boston. So thank you guys so much for doing this as well. It actually means a lot. So, first question. Specifically, how will the Overwatch League manifest or ultimate goals create globally, just like traditional esports such as football? And I love the language. Traditional esports such as football. I don't know if that's a translation error, but it's so cool that he uses that terminology. I mentioned before, the fact that he's using the correct terminology and stuff like that actually means a lot to us as an industry, and actually means that we should not worry as much about Blizzard. This is where we came up with the plan to implement a city-based team system. And although Korea is very mature when it comes to esports culture, there aren't many region-based tournaments. This is why we aim for stability in teams through things like regional sponsors. So we're considering things like home stadiums in the future. Also, in Overwatch League, there will be no relegations once the team is included in the league. This will allow team owners to participate within the league with stability. As stability is a key part in establishing the league, we will acquire salaries for players through fair distribution of profits. So, a few things in there, and actually the confirmation that revenue sharing is going to be available is actually huge. This is something that Blizzard only enacted, Riot Games only really enacted this year, and they're still kind of working on it. So the fact that Blizzard is going to get a head start on this for the league actually means a lot. Furthermore, it means that they're going to be helping out with salaries, which is obviously a huge benefit in terms of allowing teams to kind of like worry more about, hey, we don't have to spend money necessarily on covering this small part of a player's salary. We can actually use it to pay for a team house, pay for like a sports psychologist, or just go make effort to improve the team in general. As well, hey, they could pay the same amount and the players are going to be end up making more anyway. So it's a good net win for players and owners. Players will get paid more on average, and owners will spend less money on average to make sure their players are being compensated a higher amount than previously, right? So everyone's already known about the regional concept, but I think the one thing that's really important is the concept of home stadiums, right? And this is something that I think has been always and everyone has been talking about it, right? But no one has ever gotten confirmation about it, right? And this is something when I talked to Nate at BlizzCon was something he was really stood behind. And the concept of home stadiums, right? So home stadium, what does that mean? Well, you can break it apart into something that's really obvious, right? Home stadiums basically means that we are guaranteed to see esports and for esports infrastructure in stages and stuff like that. So like arenas and for example, like football stadiums or basketball arenas or anything like that. We are confirmed seeing that in the future. I like the way he's phrasing it though. It's because I think the concept of home stadium might be a little premature for now, mainly because not every stadium has available infrastructure. Not every city is going to be able to host some of these events because they might not have the esports setup that's needed. But the fact is that he's saying home stadiums are in the future, something that they definitely have in consideration. That means that they're talking to sports teams or cities and owners, and they're talking to them specifically about how they can set up such a region, right? And that's actually super, super important because that essentially verifies to us that yes, regional cities and cities in general for the Overwatch League have been talking to Blizzard, have been understanding it. This is something that's not just going to be a Blizzard side effort, but it's also going to be a regional effort. It's going to be an effort from bodies and people who we never haven't really seen a lot supported in the past, specifically like like the towns that we're talking about. I think it's so great that he announces this, because what we can infer is that yes, cities, mayors, like towns and stuff are all going to be pitching into the effort. So it's not just going to be a Blizzard side. It's not just going to be our side. They're going to try their best to make sure that esports is advertised the best in that area. So that's basically what I'm pulling away from it. The other thing is no relegation. That's actually a really, really great concept. It allows owners to be more aggressive with how they specifically want to create their team, right? Because let's say the moment you get into the league, with relegation, is always that worry where you don't want to take a lot of risks, or you want to take shortcuts just to ensure your team stays in the league, right? I don't think that's great for the growth of esports in the long run, because it doesn't. People will stop investing in players just because, hey, they're not performing immediately. You've seen this a lot in like different types of esports, like League of Legends, where the relegation system effectively causes teams to kind of like, if they see negative performance, they just immediately toss away the player, even though the player can have a lot of potential. It's not showing right now, which is an inherent issue. I mean, no relegation means that a team is willing and is able to invest heavily in a player who they believe has potential for the future. I think that's actually something really great. Things like that actually make esports a relevant and stable career you can get into, because hey, you're not going to be tossed away for like an immediate bad performance. You can take your time and get better. You can take your time and learn things and get everything together. I think that's super, super important, and I'm actually very excited for the fact that there's no relegation. No relegation also means that teams are not losing investment, so teams actually are more willing to invest in things like sports psychologists or whatever for a long-term performance upgrade. Whereas if you're unsure if you're going to stay in the league next year, you're not going to spend all that money on improving players and stuff like that. So first of all, great. Do you think region-based team system fits in Korea? Being exaggeration if I said I'm confident, but I do think Overwatch is a game that's tailored for esports. I'm aware that some Korean fans are concerned about city-based teams, but this type of global league is unprecedented, not only in Korea but also globally. It will be a great challenge for Blizzard. We want aspiring support. A lot of fans are curious about how team needs to be decided, but it's not decided at this point if the team names will have city names or not. This will proceed depending on local demands when the league starts. Technically, a little bit more information. Like I said before, regionalization is actually great because one, it's clear that Blizzard is clearly talking to these entities and talking to these cities and mayors and these regional entities, and they're getting their support within it, which is huge. I think that's the one thing that has kind of failed in the past, is that for esports, I think now is a great time where people are starting to understand what esports is, and they're understanding that, hey, this is actually a really great draw for your city in particular, because of the number of high profile like traditional sports people who've been getting into it. It's now no longer kind of like a taboo or looked down upon, right? Which is great, because that's where esports has kind of failed in the past with things like the CGS, right? But things where it's like that may have been a little too early in terms of support, and it kind of occurred just as the recession kind of hit. So there's a lot of compounding factors there. But essentially, to the best of my knowledge, CGS didn't really have active support from the regional bodies and the cities and kind of the legislation in cities to really help out the esports. So I'm really glad that's there. And it kind of gets rid of all the awkwardness, right? Because I think that people were kind of weird saying like, I don't really want my team to rebrand, right? Like the Detroit Renegades, the Miami Misfits, right? And stuff like that. Like maybe you don't really want your team to rebrand and stuff like that. So I think it's good for some people. It does keep the image, and it does, make sure that the emphasis is on the org still, and the org still will have their brand. They're not going to be afraid of all of a sudden losing their brand identity and stuff like that. So it is pretty good. Not really much to say and all that, but I think it's a good improvement, and it's something that it's really nice to hear and confirm that yes, hey, the names aren't going to change. You're not going to have a weird time trying to explain to people what the Miami Misfits are if all their players aren't necessarily Miami or stuff like that. So it does solve that one. What are the realistic profit models to sustain the Overwatch League? Great content will be the key. Overwatch esports team is under Overwatch development team, because we believe that in order to establish a successful esport, we need a lot of support and changes from within the game itself. This is why when the Overwatch League starts, we will add systems that will support viewing esports matches, check player profiles, or view additional video contents. And it is through these quality contents that we will host regional and global sponsors and share the profits from ticket sales, broadcast rights, and merchandise sales with the team. I'd like to take this opportunity to say that Overwatch League is not simply part of a marketing strategy. We are pursuing with it with strong will and with the goal of establishing esports ecosystems that rivals traditional sports. Blizzard will continuously invest in this challenge, but Overwatch has 20 million paying players within 8 months of release, and we believe it has sufficient potential. This part, I think, is actually one of the greatest affirmations from Nate Nanzer. So I want to take a sidestep, right? And I want to give you guys a little bit of background on why I'm kind of a fan of this process. back when I was attending BlizzCon, I was attending with a media pass, and I had the really, really awesome opportunity to meet Nate Nanzer in person and talk to him a little bit about the Overwatch League, which had been announced at the same time. Now, what I will say is that if there's anyone in the esports world currently who has a large vision in terms of what he wants esports to be, it's Nate Nanzer. I've never seen someone who's had such a big picture of esports, and I do appreciate that. I do think that, you know, in order to get to the next level and to get where this entire system where esports is part of your daily routine and works it into your day to day, I think you need to like have a big vision. You need to be able to think big for the future, because otherwise you're just gonna move at too slow of a pace. I really like that about Nate. Admittedly, you know, some parts that kind of concern you, obviously, is the fact that maybe he's thinking a little too big because he's setting Overwatch League up to fail. But at the same time, Nate has great vision for all of this. I remember talking to him specifically, and he was like, yeah, like he came with an example that was basically like, yeah, like I remember, like he was like, yeah, I was riding in a plane. I was taking a flight home from like an IEM somewhere, and I remember like seeing Bjergsen in like coach, right? And then he was like kind of eating fast food and coach, and he remember like, you know, that's not what I want the player to be. Like realistically, Blake Bjergsen probably could spend a lot more money, right? And also, you know, Bjergsen's the way he's a superstar, right? He should be sitting, you know, in first class or business, right? And he should be getting pampered about this. I think that's like one of the most important things to see is that for the longest time, I think esports has been undersold as a medium. I think the esports players are not getting their dues, and I feel that the only way they're going to get what they rightfully deserve is if they need to take this next step and become bigger as an industry, bigger as a field, be taken more seriously. And I think that's one of the biggest importances is that if we want to be taken seriously at traditional sports, we need to, you know, like we need to act like traditional sports. Right? Our star players can't be riding and like coach with the rest of the people. They should realistically be having these opportunities or be making enough money to go and ride first class. And it's like almost like a mentality as thing as well. So I think that's definitely something that's really cool. So that's my little background about Nate Nanzer. I do have faith in what he says, and he's definitely super enthusiastic. And I think if there's one person who should be leading this effort, it's him. He's one of the biggest visions in esports, which can either harm or you can harm, you know, the Overwatch League. But I want to say that, hey, go big or go broke. Scared money, don't make money. Right. So I like the important things that he's been bringing up here, where he's talking about he wants to add systems that support viewing esports matches and checking profiles. So this is kind of like live data, right? And if anything, that this actually starts to dig into my mind the concept of the MLB Advanced Media investing into Riot Games, right? The concept of metrics is really interesting because if you've been on MLG TV, and in my head, right, I'll make an assumption here, and that's something I'll make for the future, but MLG TV has started to do a lot of really cool like in-game stats stuff. Admittedly, now the stats aren't like refined yet, so you'll get like things like, oh, like Chips High-End, like this is how many wins he has on Mercy this year, right? Because he used to be a Mercy player. He hasn't really played Mercy in quick play or rank, so you're not gonna get numbers on that. So it's like the statistics aren't perfect, but at the same time, the way that MLG TV is doing it, it actually gives you a good insight, like updated stats, right? The reason why we want to do this is it's something like very similar to how ESPN does stats online, right? Where you can keep real-time tracking of your players, and even in game, if you're just watching on television, it always puts out that image at the bottom that says, you know, how many shots he's taken, like shooting percentage and relevant stats like that. I think that's something that really needs to be added to make esports, you know, more enjoyable and more like kind of like a real storyline. And I've said this from day one when I wrote my article on kind of like why Blizzard needs a better spectator system and what they can really derive from that. And master data is super, super important in that aspect. And I think that, you know, at the end of the day, it's definitely important to have something like this. And I'm glad that they're finally saying it. Yeah, they did say, hey, we need to improve the spectator system, but the fact he's kind of come out and saying it, and it's not just about having a better spectator system, but it's also about viewing esports matches, right? Checking player profiles and stuff like that in game. They're not talking just about a spectator experience. They're talking about they're not talking about a better spectator mode. Let me rephrase that. They're not talking about a better spectator mode, but they're talking about an overall better spectator experience, which is what esports for the longest time has had the hardest time to transition from online into kind of like more of like a typical medium. Is that it's so hard to transition, that's such a high barrier to entry, and people, it's hard to understand like how good someone's doing, especially in Overwatch, right? So that's an issue that Overwatch has run into, but now they're understanding, they're putting their foot forward in terms of saying, hey, we want this to be really good for us. So of course, you know, hey, sharing profits from ticket sales, broadcasting rights, and merchandising sales, that's pretty sick. Ticket sales above all else, something that's got me really pumped. That means, hey, the entire tournament things that we were talking about before. What does that mean? Well, that means actually, that's really awesome about it. And it means that, hey, we're gonna actually have these we're going to be able to buy tickets for events in the future, right, and stuff like that. And more importantly, right, it actually gives incentives for teams and local entities to market, right, such that there's more people involved. And something I've always said the most is that people actually underestimate how much influence competitive organizations have and how important it is that they use their influence for good, right? For example, yeah, I would say realistically, if TSM is playing in a game, inherently just by the TSM brand alone, they're going to get a lot more players, a lot more people to be watching the streams or watching television. Now think about it, if TSM actually went out of their way and specifically marketed in cities, right? They were like, hey, we're going to have our League of Legends players going to be at the Overwatch tournament, right? Hey, come in, meet them, get a signing, and they're going to use that to boost and grab in a lot of different members of the esports crowd, right? And it's something I'm super excited about, because once the teams start buying into Tire's marketing platform and using social media properly, not just to announce games, but also to encourage people to come in, all of a sudden, all those fans, all those TSM chants that you've been hearing actually start resulting into bigger and better earnings for players, right? And that's something that will transition. On an online platform like Twitch, it's really hard to kind of get money from there. But if you can do ticket sales and stuff like that, like the gate, I remember like Thorin was talking about on Twitter today, the gate for like fighting events and stuff like that, that's where you're gonna make a lot of your additional money as well. And I think it's something that we definitely need to look into. And no one has previously talked about how we can improve ticket sales. I think that the fact that Blizzard is actually talking about, hey, we want to actually get a profit sharing from ticket sales, means that we're going to get really awesome pricing structures for that. At least I hope so. And also it means that at the end of the day, that's another way for us as fans to help support our players. Broadcasting rights is also something which I want to talk about, but I also want to talk about in the context of what Blizzard probably means by this. So broadcasting revenue has always been tricky, right? Because you need another company to pay for it and for you to show it, right? Twitch.tv has always been a great source for esports because, one, hey, it's free, anyone can access it, and it's just such an embedded name at this point. Everyone streams on Twitch. No one really streams on anywhere else anymore. Like Hitbox TV doesn't really do that well. Azubu, I don't even know if that's a thing anymore, but basically Twitch has such embedded itself where it's kind of like this industry standard, but at the same time it's not a great way to realistically do broadcasting rights and paying for broadcast. Like just the model that's currently working off it isn't great for it. So what does that mean? Well, I'm actually going to make the aggressive guess that the Overwatch League will be shown on MLG.tv. Now, before everyone gets on me about it, I do understand that, hey, I could be entirely wrong, and like, why would they do that when they get so much more traction on Twitch? Well, actually, if you've been catching up with, I think it was like the MLG Atlanta Open or something, for COD, right? They actually had the stream on MLG TV with some portions being shown on Twitch. And MLG TV, as we just mentioned before, has been really working with its statistics and kind of the stat game as well. So that's actually something that's really interesting. I think that's what they might be moving towards. If you guys don't know, Blizzard is also owned by Activision, who also owns MLG. So I think that's actually might be a reason why they'll be moving to that platform. They want to promote their own brand as well. And this isn't something that's crazy, right? Riot Games actually, after the acquisition by MLB Advanced Media, there's actually something in a contract that was leaked in a way that basically stipulated they're going to do the same thing, right? If you use your own server or your own kind of like service to really watch these games, you can monetize that a lot easier than going on Twitch, right? Because Twitch right now, always you can really monetize or through like donations, which you don't really want in a stream. Because one, it's like, how do you show, like, what's the incentive for someone donating? In most cases, the incentive of donating is to get this thing on screen. Cheers is a good way to do it, but also at the same time, like, not a great way, not super great. But I'd say the last one is of course subscriptions, which is why do you subscribe? There's not really a lot of incentives for you to subscribe if you're not really getting anything out of the experience, but like icons and stuff like that. And Twitch currently doesn't really have a great way of getting you that extra mile information. But if it's your own proprietary service, you can kind of start mixing in different things where you can actually start getting more money and different ways to monetize. Like that entire statistics thing would be pretty cool. And imagine being able to move around, right? Imagine being actually able to spend money, right, on like a premium membership to effectively be able to control someone in person or something like that, right? There's a video elsewhere that I made about broadcasting rights in general, but if you guys want to check it out, it's on Overwatch Kings, and I will provide the link in the description. But I think it's a really cool concept that could definitely move forward. But yeah, and of course, he's also cited the number of players that are available, and I think this is the first time someone's ever really talked about how using your player base and how big the Overwatch player base is. That would be something to keep a lookout for. If you would describe Overwatch, is it an association or an independent league? Overwatch is an independent league. We have any ideas about the name, but the Overwatch League means a Premier League that's on top of every league. Premier League, good way of phrasing it, and actually it's very interesting, right? Because I'm wondering if that terminology is how should I put this? I wonder if that terminology is intentional, because he does say it's a Premier League that's above, on top of every league, right? That means that there are other leagues besides the Overwatch League which are in plans or in development, or basically saying that, hey, Overwatch League is not going to be the only league. It's going to be the best one, right? And I think that's a great model, because the entire thing that we've been talking about, right, and people have been worried about, is the entire concept of how does the average person, how does the Crusher 99 get into the scene? And if there are development leagues, challenger league systems, right, like how the Premier League works in soccer, where there's Premier League and then there's a league below it, right, the Series 2 or whatever, actually completely two different leagues. I just said like a France league and then like a British league. But let's say they have that system in play. That means teams can start working their way up, right? They can start saying, hey, if we play really well, we'll get noticed in this lower league, and then next year when the next season starts, we'll be considered for entry in there. So I think that's actually really good that he's talking about. I don't know if it's intentional. Once again, this is translated in interview, so I might be reading too much into it. But if that's true, and Blizzard has plans to kind of support a secondary development league, or like a tier 2 league, I think it's something that's really exciting. It's going to get a lot of teams interested in continuing to invest in the game, even if they don't get in season 1. The fact that there's a possibility to get in, like the Challenger series, is actually becoming relatively profitable for a lot of teams. It's going to be something I'm really excited for. I really want to see more of, and honestly, it would be something that's really cool. I think that'd be great for developing players, as well as making sure teams stay in the market. Are there taking plans to provide home stadiums? They'll depend on the region. We consider many options for Korea, as is the Birthplace Esports. There are many esports stadiums already. It requires an decision for team owners, so it's hard to give a definitive answer. Basically, team owners want money. No way around it. They want competitive offers for why we should bring your team there, and they're waiting on that for now, because I think a lot of teams are still in discussions with these professional sports teams. There's that concept of they're modeling together, so they're being put together or like paired with like a larger traditional sports entity, and there are a lot of those. There's actually not a lot of those in Korea, but Korea actually has kind of like bigger corporations paired with these esports teams, so their infrastructure is probably fine. But I think specifically he's trying to talk about in North America, where more teams are going to be paired with traditional sports outlets. So the moment, and I think they're going to try to be driving that. They're going to try to be pushing for it. So maybe I think actually Blizzard might actually be doing it themselves and looking for it. Are you willing to share profits from in-game content sales with the teams? We decided that with the current global Overwatch paying player-based model, the esports will be profitable. Definitely agree with that. Hard to believe that a game that cost whose price point was like $40 became like a $20 million seller over a game like League of Legends, which is free to play and stuff like that. Very interested that price point actually worked, and plus the Origins edition was like $60 or something. So we're really excited about that. Does mean that people are more willing to pay though, right? If you can buy the game, that also means that you have more money to spend on other things as well. It's possible to share profits from the sales of seasonal sports items or team-related items to team, but still in consideration at this point. Very understandable, right? You don't know where your price points are for stuff like this. For example, stickers and things like that. And stickers, like in skins, have always been something where it's like, teams play, organizations can use to boost like prize pools or boost overall sales, and that's something we definitely have seen, right, with like icons and stickers for CSGO, and icons for League of Legends. I don't know if actually teams get money for that, but hopefully they do. But yeah, it's something that people have definitely considered in the past, and I'm glad that they're still considering it. The only issue right now is the fact that like they don't really have a system for you to go and like spend money specifically on skins. There's not really like a coin system available. You have to roll it. So that's probably what they're evaluating, whether or not they want microtransactions to be available in the actual scope of being able to buy coins and stuff like that. So that might be a decision they want to make internally, because if you can buy coins, it kind of like decreases how much people are going to be spending on loot boxes. The big incentive about buying a lot of loot boxes, because nothing's guaranteed. You can't just like buy a lot of coins, right, and then like buy that specific object. So it's actually a good marketing idea that they haven't really pushed through this just yet, because hey, you get to buy more loot boxes. You're still not going to get the item, which means that you're going to spend a lot of money in the process of doing it. So scummy on Blizzard's side, but at the same time, it's like a good idea, and it's really great in terms of marketing and getting more and becoming more profitable as an industry, because people are fine paying like $5 for like a box or whatever, right? Or whatever. So the price point is really good for boxes at this point. I don't think they should change it. Speaking of gaming, we want to provide systems constantly that will support esports. We're planning a lot of systems that will make HP bars above heads more visible, and systems that will allow spectators to clearly see the progression of the match. These preparations are also part of the overall preparation for the Overwatch League. Nothing we haven't seen before. Bigger stance on, they're saying, hey, we're going to move forward spectator modes to make it easier for players to watch. They are addressing one of the biggest issues, which is Overwatch is such a hard sport, esport to really keep track of, and I think that's good that they're recognizing, hey, there are these flaws, and we will be talking about it. So very excited to see them take a formal and strong stance on it. Even though it's something that honestly that everyone's kind of been expecting, and they have mentioned it before with a better spectator system. I think Jeff Kaplan specifically mentioned that in the future. The fact that they've acknowledged that, hey, we are trying to make it so that the spectator can follow the progression of the match, and they're not just saying, hey, just learn the game, figure it out yourself. But I think the fact that they're doing this means that they're understanding and they're targeting a traditional audience that's not used to esports. How much contacts have there been regarding Overwatch League with companies and local governments? At this stage, we're introducing the Overwatch Leagues to major regions. We're looking for and in contact with potential team owners. Awesome stuff. This does support my little conspiracy theory, if I put on my tin hat, that Blizzard is basically hand selecting teams in this process, meaning that they're basically sitting down and saying, hey, we want you in the Overwatch League. We'll give you a timeline. You're definitely going to be in, especially if you want to buy in or invest, right? So, hey, we'll wait for you, and I feel that's why more announcements haven't been really announced yet, and it's low-key because, for example, like, it could legitimately be that TSM just hasn't picked up a team that they feel comfortable announcing, or like, for example, Optic maybe is still looking for a team, and there's all these other big organizations that are definitely should be involved in Overwatch that haven't really picked up teams yet, and maybe that's why the announcement has been so late and delayed, and I think that's fine. And hey, that's my tinfoil hat, is that they're still looking for teams, and as from the best of my sources, TSM I think does have a team. But obviously there was some drama earlier with another player, so I don't know what the status of that team is currently. Optic, to the best of my knowledge, does not have a team, but maybe they're definitely into talking about it and looking into it, as well as Evil Geniuses, another big organization. So hopefully we'll see more of it in the future. I do think that they are going to be picking specific like first round entries. So I wouldn't be surprised, for example, if they had like a 12-man league and they showed us the first 6 teams at a formal announcement, gave us the first 6 teams, and the other 6 teams were still in the works. I wouldn't be surprised about that, but I think they would definitely want to wait for the big esports orgs to be signed on to the deal and have teams and have kind of like partnerships already. That way that it gives more hype to the team, right? Because, for example, if TSM isn't in the first announcement, that's not going to generate a lot of hype, because as everyone knows, TSM is probably the biggest brand in esports currently. So they want that, and I think that also they might be waiting for other organizations like Echo Fox to really start picking up teams and monetization, as well as just finish up a lot of contracts in between teams and sports teams right now. There are a lot of teams that kind of have some sort of partnership, as we just saw. Like Luminosity Gaming has Trevor May now, I think, as I want to say as an investor, but he definitely streams for Luminosity Gaming. So it's not too far off that they could be waiting for more orgs to get in for and participate. Oh, so contacts as a multi-sex league, that'll be up to the teams. Yeah, I'm glad that he says this. That's not about boundaries. It's not about the league mandating it's an all-male or all-female league. I do think it should be up to the teams. I think that's the best way. And this is actually one of the best ways that you realistically can make an argument for females to get into the game. More it's because I think that making the stance that there aren't going to be female leagues means that, hey, it does encourage more integration. It does mean that, if the average female wants to get into esports, right, that it's going to be through teams. It's not going to be like through a secondary, like lesser league that they're tribute to. But he does want it to be such that hey, we want females to be included in the league and want to be equal members in this entire endeavor. Versus like, hey, creating female leagues, which I feel like while they're good and they definitely promote more female attention, I do feel that they come across as like kind of like a lesser quality, right? And I don't really like that. I don't think that's the really good approach to take in terms of empowering or adding more female participation. I think it's all going to be about teams grow, like, females just going out, right? Whether or not if you're biologically female or if you self-identify as female, going out, trying out for teams and improving your skill from there, and then the team making a decision, hey, this is not, it's not just about a girl, right? We're not, the girl thing shouldn't even be a consideration. It should be, hey, this is a really good player. We want this person on our team, right? So that's really cool. It's just a small little tidbit, which I enjoy the way that you phrased it. And no boundaries in region or nationality when it comes to players. Really great. And obviously he makes this statement because we have so many EU players in NA, so he just wants to clarify. Is there a lot of reason why Tracer is the logo for Overwatch? Tracer is the hallmark character. This is why our post is very athletic, to give the feeling of sorts. Awesome. That's actually something that you don't like think about as a marketing team, right? Is that if you have like Roadhog as the icon, right? It like sets a bad example. It's like, whoa, what is this? Like this game is about big people, like big fat people who are not super athletic, right? Or stuff like that. And the fact that it's like Tracer is both a female and athletic and stuff like that actually gives a characteristic that she's more like a mascot now. But also if you think about it, right, Tracer realistically is one of the more athletic characters, right, in terms of like what her ability skill set is, and something that's like such a minor detail, but that's actually what marketing experts are paid to do, is that even though it's such a small detail, the fact that she's in like a running pose, right, and she's like kind of like sprinting, right, it's kind of giving the person watches like, hey, this is gonna be a fast game, this is gonna be a really exciting, really energetic game, that's gonna be awesome, right? If we put a Reinhardt and just kind of like a shield thing, right, and all they're gonna see is like, hey, this is gonna be like some like I don't have a good vibe, like what is this, is it gonna be exciting, am I gonna want to watch it? But if it's Tracer and she's ready in their blink pose and stuff like that, and maybe they want to check out the game and they see, hey, Tracer's like moving really fast, hey, it's really hard to like aim and shoot, wow, this is gonna be a really intense character and really important to and the level of skill that's gonna be available is gonna be really high. I think that's gonna be super cool. Really want to see more of it, and I think that's actually the smallest decision I actually really enjoy, really like. So specific schedules, we'll start the 2017 season with Q3. Important fact that he's finally confirmed it. This has been a rumor that we've heard for so long. Q3, I think I heard actually from Nate Nanzer at BlizzCon, but the fact that we can finally confirm it, great. It allows people to understand what the timeline is and setting the timeline. Confirmed Q3 was one of my biggest worries, that it was never going to be confirmed, but now that they finally confirmed it, means that a lot of organizations now understand what the timeline is and now can make plans for next year as well as later in the year, right? So around like 6 months from now. During this period, there'll be a lot of acquiring players and forming new teams, so League will be in a compact form. Basically, he's just kind of talking about how he wants more organizations to get in and acquire players and form a new team. So forming teams isn't so much, oh man, like this brand new group of 6 random people are going to form a team. Not really. What he's basically saying is that he's waiting for a lot of the big name teams to kind of form in. So while that's a good thing, that means actually actively means there'll be more investors that are also in the game, but it's also hinting that, hey, we have not seen every org in the game yet, which we know we haven't, and I think he's specifically hinting that we're going to see some of those big brands like Optic, like TSM, like Evil Geniuses. We'll see those big brands get into the scene, and I'm very excited to see what teams they do pick up. Shout out to my boy, the Scr1be's right now, currently unsigned. If you're a team that wants to get into the Overwatch League, and you're a team that wants to perform well at the highest level, and you don't really want to take a gamble, the Scr1be's are the team for you. They're such a strong team right now. I think they're one of the best. They are arguably one of the best teams, if not the best team in Europe right now, and they're looking for a team and an org. So guys, please reach out to these guys and sign them. Like, if you're TSM, I've heard that. I know what your roster is, TSM, and I go for that. But hey, if you're Optic Gaming, pick up the Scr1be's, please. I want a good org to sign these guys. These guys deserve the best organization there is, and they will not let you down. They're one of the strongest teams out there, and that's my little shout out. So at the start, it will be, so I think from 2018 will be a regular season with consistent schedule. 2018, next year, very good. Season 2 means that they will have more consistent regular seasons, which I hope means that the inclusion of other leagues as well. So very excited about that. It'll be held in major stadiums in some regions with enough teams infrastructure. You'll be able to enjoy Overwatch being played in home stadiums. Yes, so this confirms my idea that basically they're doing is they're going to rotate around, and so like every week or every month or so they'll be playing at certain regions and stuff like that. I do expect that there's obviously some big studios that will be played. So I think Colorado, Irvine, Atlanta are going to be the key options because they already have like esports stadiums, right? I think that the MLG stadiums in Colorado, I could be wrong, but for example, Austin also has a great esports infrastructure. So essentially, they're going to be tackling the cities that we know for being able to host events and have been hosting events before. Like Las Vegas has been hosting DreamHack. Austin, DreamHack Austin has also been a thing, right? Atlanta has obviously been the E-League side of the world, right? So they're going to have their infrastructure available as well, and then also MLG Studios, another big point, as well as Irvine and Anaheim, which are the home of Blizzard Esports. So I definitely expect them to be in the discussion as well. It will be very exciting, and I know that they have a lot of infrastructure built up, so I'm very excited to see the variety of cities that will be available week one, especially it's awesome that we have an esports city on an East Coast city on there. Esports has long been a West Coast dominated sport, but thank you Atlanta for hosting the E-League and making sure that we'll get at least one representative there. I'll try my best to make it down when I can. Will Overwatch League players be drafted? No, they will not be drafted. Team will have rights to the roster. This will be the best present case where existing teams will break out for the Overwatch League. It's been well known that it's been supplemental draft, but I'm glad that they finally said it. The draft right won't really occur, but the combine will be a supplemental combine where teams can go check out any new talent they want to add to the roster and do it. It's really unlikely though that they'll add it, because if you're going into the combine looking for a sixth player, and you've already been announced as a team, most teams are only created when they have all six players ready. So maybe you're looking for subs or something like that, or maybe you're looking for a backup, right? And I think that it would be good to establish that kind of infrastructure very early on, where there's a precedent where you need to have subs, you need to have backups for that. Last question: how will all team owners be decided? We welcome anyone who's willing to invest in the Overwatch League and keep the team in the long run. Of course, we are required to have necessary capital or plans to form a team. Capital being the most important thing here. Due to the privacy of each org, we can't disclose the qualifications. Let me know. Holla at me. $3 million buy-in. Is that a possible number? Who knows? If the owner is selected to the collaboration with Overwatch League, he or she can participate in Overwatch permanently. We'll return more information in the future. Like I said, waiting on those big organizations and buy-ins, and most importantly, it's an invitation for bigger sponsors to come in saying, hey, it's not just esports teams. If you want to come in, if you the Boston Celtics or you the New England Patriots want to come in, buy a team, right? You can do that. You don't need to do it through an esports organization, something that they're actually saying here, right? So he's encouraging big time sponsors who maybe want to understand that, hey, I want my own stake in this. I want development in a team, and I want this to be my thing. I want to make money off of this. Specifically, it's telling them to get in. And there's a lot of great sponsors right now that are not necessarily esports teams. Traditional sports teams are, traditionally the biggest source of capital that we've seen so far, but they're not the only source of capital. For example, Ghost Gaming, it's kind of been a mix of marketing teams. The fact that he's making this statement specifically and saying anyone who's willing to invest, right? Invest also means, in the way terminology, is that you're putting in money, and the money will be used to improve the Overwatch League. Only can be a positive, but also think about it. It could mean that other companies, not necessarily esports or traditional sports companies, will be buying in. I'm very excited for things like that. Team YP, which is not exactly either category, has gotten a team again. I'm very excited to see where that all leads. And of course, that is the end of the transcript. In closing, I'm very excited for the Overwatch League. I'm always excited for stuff like this because it's since day one, since it was announced, and from when and then at BlizzCon, then I talked to Nate and Nanzer and everyone else, and the fact that I've been following this for such a long time. It's kind of like my baby in a way, and I've made so many videos about like kind of the marketing, broadcast, and all these other associated points of it. I'm very excited about how this will impact the industry. I think going for broke is important here. I think that the Overwatch League will succeed, and it's up to people like the community to really push it forward and make sure it succeeds, right? Because if we believe in it and we can take the effort to specifically go out of our way to support it and make sure it gets a great first game on television or something like that, or a great first LAN, and we sell out the seats, I think that can only be positives for Blizzard and the growth of Overwatch as a whole. And I think that it's important for the community to have faith in this very trying time. I know everyone's super excited, but it's important to have faith. If we, the fans of this game, don't have faith, who is, right? So hope that this announcement by Nate Nanzer left you guys as kind of like as happy and excited for this Overwatch thing, but also kind of assuage some of your fears. This press conference was definitely intentional that was held in Korea, because Korea has definitely been the birthplace of esports, also one of the more competitive regions currently. So strategically makes a lot of sense in that aspect. I'm very excited to see what Nanzer has planned for the following Overwatch. So anyway, guys, I want to hear your thoughts about everything on this in this icon specifically, or on this issue. Let me know, guys, on Twitter or below in the comments, and I'll try to get this on Reddit if I can. But thank you guys so much. This is Wilson Scr1be's signing out. See you guys later.